movie's a joke, right? The real Insurgent's coming out in a couple months or something, right? Like, this is just an early April Fool's thing, right?
I'm alive, my heart keeps beating like a hammer.
Now, this isn't going to be a review, because there's no point. You already know what you're going to think of this movie. You do. Trust me. There really isn't anything beneath the skin of the trailer that was hidden that you'll gain with a viewing. Now, if it looks like something you'd find interesting, you'll probably like it. But if it looks blasé and trite, that's probably the experience you'll have. But there are a couple things that I want to rant about, and because I have this show, I get to do that! So, if you want to, stick around and let's have some fun. But if you just want a quick verdict, here you go! And while we're being lazy... So, it's rant o'clock. Something to keep in mind during this little tirade of mine that's coming, this movie, Insurgent, takes place just 5 days after Divergent. So, filmmakers, you need to be careful about aesthetic changes in between movies. The guns in the first movie were very distinctive. In a bad way because they seemed like toys, but they were more or less iconic. Yet somehow in just 5 days, these guns that were everywhere, used by everyone, have been completely recalled and replaced by these other Halo knockoff guns. Candor, Dauntless, Erudite all have these new guns without any kind of explanation at all. In just 5 days! Even the Factionless, who you'd kinda think would be behind the times with the current tech and gear, somehow have all these new ones too. There's not even a mix and match, as like a newer model becomes more popular and replaces the older one over time. In just 5 days, the weaponry of the entire city has completely changed. It's minor, it totally is, I admit it, but it's distracting. Take Hunger Games for a quick example here. In between the first movie, Hunger Games, and the second movie, Catching Fire, there were changes made to the police officers' uniforms and weaponry, but there was also a year difference in between Hunger Games and Catching Fire, meaning there was ample time to design, implement, and then mass distribute these new weapons and uniforms. Whereas in Divergent and Insurgent, there's just 5 days, and there's just not enough time. And you see what Insurgent has done here? It has me pining for the thing that I spent 27 minutes and 8 seconds calling plagiarism. And now another thing I want to talk about is the invention of plot devices in between movies that would render the plot or the events of the first movie either pointless or completely destroys them. You would think that this would be a given, no? That people wouldn't just pull things out of their asses that just make the first story not work, right? But with Insurgent, they went and invented a Divergent DAR.
Oh no.
Let me say that again. The screenwriters for this movie invented a Divergent DAR.
Oh no.
How silly is this little concept? So much so that the book I can't force myself to read wasn't even low enough to include a Divergent DAR.
Oh no.
Need further proof of how just dumb this idea was? You cannot find an image, a video clip, or anything on the internet right now of this device because the marketing team was smart enough to realize that they should cover up its existence. Meaning, the people that are in charge of the production of this movie and the distribution of it are embarrassed by the fact that this movie has a Divergent DAR.
Oh no.
Now, in case you don't know, being divergent means you cannot be categorized by your base personality traits, that you have the ability to be brave, kind, smart, selfless, and honest all at once. Hopefully, I don't need to get into how redundant that is, so instead let's focus on how this Divergent DAR
Oh no.
works. Is it a sensor? If it is, what is it sensing? Do you give off a certain energy depending on if you're in Candor or if you're in Dauntless or if you're Divergent? Because this device, it doesn't just find divergence, it tells you what faction someone belongs to, up to and including Divergence and Factionless. And how does it do that? How does it know that this person at this moment in time is a Divergent or a Factionless? If it says they're Factionless, how does it know they're Factionless and not erudite? Why don't they show up what their birth faction was and not what they are now? Is it a genetic thing? Is there some kind of genetic messing with experiment going on that they haven't gotten into yet into these movies? Because the ending of Insurgent doesn't really make it sound like they're manipulating people on any kind of genetic level or anything like that. Is it a soul thing? Like, does this device like see your soul, and then like like if you're Candor, like you have like a white or black soul, or if you're Dauntless, maybe it's red because fire. I don't know. So is it magic? Is it tangible? Is it metaphysical? That would be kind of crazy. But again, this story is so grounded outside of this Divergent concept, it doesn't seem like it should be magical or something like that. But does it read their minds? Or their memories somehow, possibly? Or does it put them in like a simulation, and then like inside this, no, it can't be that, because Divergents are immune to simulations. And not only is this device built to be able to tell you if someone is Divergent or not, it tells you the percentage of Divergent that the person is. Like, for example, there's this Candor guy that they scan, and he's 10% Divergent. How does that work? How are you 10% Divergent? Is he completely honest 90% of his life, and then, he takes a shot of tequila, and then he tells a white lie, or bends the truth for a joke, or something like that? Or how about the little girl that they scan that's 40%? That girl is 3, maybe 4 years old. What has happened in her life? What has allowed her to develop enough of a personality for you to know that she is 40% Divergent versus whatever she was before she started being Divergent? She's 3, maybe 4. You don't know your toes from your ankles or from your nose at that age. How do you know at that age that you're going to be some kind of rebel or where was this technology 5 days ago? You can't just completely build something like this from the ground up in 5 days. They had to have had some kind of access to it before the starting of this story, and this device would have just completely just altered the entire everything that was Divergent. Something like this existence completely renders the hunting of Divergent superfluous. It should be easy. You should be finding them left and right. And not just that, apparently Candor has this like weird truth serum that they inject you with it, and then you tell nothing but the truth, or you feel just horrible pain. Why isn't that being used to hunt Divergents down? That's a perfect thing. They've apparently had that for years. Why has nobody thought to use that? You load it into a trank gun and you go around just shooting everybody, and then once they're on the ground, you're like, oh god, I'm not dead, it's just a needle. Yeah, it is a needle. Now, what are you? Are you a Divergent? No. Oh god, pain. Yes, you are. Real gun. Game over. How have they not thought of this? You know how they haven't thought of it? Because the writers didn't think of it. This movie, it's just, I don't like it. I don't care how cool that poster is. I don't like it. But you know what? If we're being honest, I laughed a lot at this movie. Like, a lot. It's just so weird and silly at parts. You just can't do anything but laugh. And it got so bad that my girlfriend actually kept nudging me to try and get me to shut up, but I couldn't because it was that funny. So if you're into that, go for it. You'll find some fun in this movie. But for now, guys, it is late. So I'm going to go to sleep because I've got some fun stuff in the works that I need my brain cells not all deadified from no sleep about. Yeah, that made sense, right?